Hello, good crowd. I am so excited to share with you today. I've got Jane Leal. She's the vice chair of Feeding Middlesex County, and we're talking today about feeding hungry people right here in the United States. She's in Middlesex County in New Jersey. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Please support the sponsors who made this episode possible, including Johnson & Johnson's CaringCrowd and GoodCrowd.school. Jane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Devin. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you and appreciate you taking the time. Tell us a little bit about the need for food. I think it surprises a lot of us who aren't hungry that there are hungry people right here in our own communities. Tell us a little bit about what you see.
Yes, that's very true. In fact, in Middlesex County, New Jersey, where we're located, we are a pretty well-off county, but there is a lot of hunger and food insecurity here. 1 in 8 residents of this county are food insecure, and that's over 70,000 people. So there is a need out there. I know a lot of us don't see it every day, but it is definitely there.
Wow, that is a lot of hungry people. So tell us about what Feeding Middlesex County does operationally to address this problem.
Okay, I will have to take you back in our history a little bit. We have a county food bank that's supported by our county freeholders and by the Middlesex County Improvement Authority. And it's called McFoods. It's a short name for the Middlesex County Food Organization and Outreach Distribution Services. They have been around for 25 years. And unlike a lot of food banks, they're a government entity. And because they are a government entity, they get support from the government, obviously, but there are actually a little bit of a downside to it in that they have to operate by local public contract laws and such, and it doesn't allow the food bank to do things in an emergency situation. They cannot act aggressively and forcefully and do it right now. So we created Feeding Middlesex County to override that. They were also not a 501c3 charity, and although they were getting donations, a lot of entities and individuals could not donate to them because they were looking for their tax situation for a charity. So we created Feeding Middlesex County to help, and our goal really is to raise money for 2 purposes: to purchase food for the food bank, for McFoods, but also we give small grants to some of the food pantries in our county, and to help them buy a refrigerator or some transportation issues, that kind of thing. So that is our goal, is strictly to raise money for the food bank to buy food.
People love, I think, to give food to the food bank. It feels so simple, and it's hard for the food bank to do anything wrong with the food you donate. But money sometimes has an even bigger impact, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. I mean, in terms of the food drives that support McFoods, the food bank, there are sort of desert times of year. We have a big food drive in the schools in our county early in the year, but usually come summer, the shelves get to be more empty than they've been in the past, and we're faced with the fact that kids are home from school. They're not getting free or subsidized meals at school, and the need is much, much greater in the summer. So our ability to raise money and allow us to buy food to, fill up that desert is really helpful.
It is, I think, surprising to a lot of people how helpful and how far the dollars donated can go compared to food. Because if I show up with a
Yes.
box of macaroni and cheese, and Kraft just backed up a truck last week full of macaroni and cheese, they're not very excited to have my box, right? But if I show up with $5, that can become anything that they need, right?
Uh, They are both helpful. When people donate food, it goes right into the food bank, it goes right out. Our food bank is a little different in that the food is not being distributed to individuals or families and such. We have 120 organizations that belong to the food bank. For the most part, they're food pantries, and a lot of them are located in churches and synagogues. There are soup kitchens, and then there's social service agencies. So all of these entities come actually twice a week to pick up food. One day it's the non-perishable canned goods, that sort of thing. And then the next day it's fresh produce that we get from our statewide community food bank and also from a group called Farmers Against Hunger. We have a lot of partners in this,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I can imagine. Now, one of
Yes,
your partners in the last year or so has been Johnson and Johnson's
yes,
CaringCrowd.
yes.
Uh, that's an interesting situation because you've successfully used CaringCrowd to raise some money. Tell us a little bit about your experience with CaringCrowd.
I will. It was a great experience. First of all, we were a new 501c3 charity. This was our first year operating. And so, like, where are all these funds going to come from, you know? And Johnson and Johnson was a great partner. John Bramnick came to us and said, you know, you would be a great nonprofit for us to partner with, and Caring Crowd would be a great place for you to raise money. At the same time, another partner in this endeavor was Rutgers University. They have a collaborative center for community-based research and service. And through that, they have classes of students who were learning about community service. So it was a team of students from one of these classes that actually set up the fundraiser through Caring Crowd. And what we did was, as I had just mentioned a few minutes ago, the fundraiser was based on raising money to buy food for the summer. And again, it was our first endeavor in that sort of thing. And we didn't know what kind of a goal we should have. And it's very important because Johnson & Johnson matches the funds that are donated. So for every dollar donated, it's worth $2. And for a new charity like Feeding Middlesex County, that was really, really important. So we did sort of a modest goal of $2,000. And what happened was, in less than a week, we reached our goal, just like that. So the people from J&J said, listen, why don't you do part two since you did so well so quickly? So we did part two, and part two was based on funding healthy snacks for kids when they go back to school in September. And that goal was $4,000. And we matched, you know, we made that goal. J&J matched it. We actually raised more than the $6,000 that we had had in mind. And for a new charity like us, it was really important. It got us going. It was a good thing.
So how much were you able to participate in the J&J match as you did these
Yes,
crowdfunding campaigns? Great.
yes. Yeah, no, it was wonderful.
So did you keep track of how much of the total you raised? About 6,000. Did you keep track of how much of that came from J&J?
Well, about half of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
just
So
about half of
so
it.
they matched almost everything, huh?
Yes,
Oh, that's
yes.
great.
No,
Boy.
it really is. And for a nonprofit like us, and they work with obviously many other nonprofits,
Yeah.
it's a boost. It really is.
Well, Jane, as you look at the work you've done, what are you most proud of having accomplished?
Well, we had a goal in our first year of operation for Feeding Middlesex County of raising $50,000. And we met our goal. We exceeded it by a little. We were up to about $52,000. And that may seem very modest in this world of, huge amounts of money. But for us here in Middlesex County, it was really a good thing, and it got us started. And we learned a lot about fundraising, especially through CaringCrowd, because you had to be able to tell your story in a very succinct way. You had to be able to tell your story so that people understood what your goal is and why you're doing what you're doing. Fortunately for us, this may sound a little silly, but hunger is not hard to explain to people. They understand it immediately. I know a lot of other charities, have to give their elevator speech, and they have to figure out how in a minute or two to, tell people what it is they do. We don't have that in hunger or food insecurity. People immediately understand what that's all about. So that's been an easy
Sure.
way for us, definitely.
What's the most important lesson you've learned as you've been about this effort?
I think the most important lesson, when we look at who are benefiting from getting food, a lot of us tend to think it's poor people or, people who are struggling. A lot of the people who need our services are middle-class people who, in a month, they get through those 3 weeks of the month. And that last week, they're having to make decisions. Do I put gas in my car to get to work? Or do I feed my family? Or pay the rent, or whatever it is, that they're struggling with. And I think that's the thing that I've learned a lot about, and it's also the thing I think that motivates a lot of us who volunteer for Feeding Middlesex County.
Why was this important to you, Jane? I think we all get that solving this problem is important, but why did you feel that personal responsibility?
Well, it's from two angles. It's a professional angle and a personal one. I am retired from the Middlesex County Improvement Authority, and we oversaw the food bank, McFoods. So I had been involved with it for 21 years. And it really was something very special in my heart. And I felt like we were doing such a good job, so that when I retired, I said, in some way, I'm going to continue to do this. So not only did we create Feeding Middlesex County, but I actually go there every Wednesday and volunteer. I'm, lifting things and packing things up and doing that because I feel it's very important to be hands-on. And from a personal point of view, I'm really inspired. My grandmother is a woman named Sadie Cohen, and she was a widow with 7 kids, and they had no money. I mean, they really were very, very poor. And despite the fact that, everyone had to chip in and keep things going in that family, my grandmother was a very benevolent woman. She had almost nothing, but yet what little she had, she felt she had to contribute to her community. And I feel in some way that's part of my DNA. It just seems to be there, and this was a great way to act upon it.
You mentioned your pattern of going and helping out, physically carrying heavy boxes. You feel like that's meaningful. Why is that meaningful to you?
I think because it's a very hands-on kind of thing. It's basic, and I don't know. I think it gives me just great satisfaction because not only am I raising money to buy this food, but I'm getting the food out the door to the people who need it. I think that's it. I mean, every week that I go there, I never walk away feeling bad. I always walk away feeling good, feeling that I did something good. But like a lot of things, I know it's a cliche, people say it all the time, but I get more from it than I give to it because it's so satisfying. And it's fulfilling this need that is there, and it's a need that's growing. It's even in our county, that's a pretty stable, well-off community. It's just growing. We have a lot of people working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And people are struggling, definitely. But the people that get the food in the end, it's a wide assortment of people. It's not just families, it's veterans, it's seniors, a lot of kids, probably a third or more of the people served are children.
Yeah. Jane, what is your superpower?
My superpower. I think my superpower has to do with strategy. I learned to be I've had 2 careers. My first career was in film and video, and I was a producer. And a lot of times you would be given, like at the last minute, someone would say something crazy to you, like, I need an elephant in Times Square at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So, I'm going to sit there and go, okay, I can do it this way, this way, this way. I would come up with different strategies for getting that job done. And I learned a lot by doing that. I was in that career for almost about 17 years. And I was able to take that strategic planning that I had in my head and take it to the Improvement Authority. And now I've taken it to Feeding Middlesex County. It's really a way of just determining how to get from point A to point B, the different ways you can do it, and what's the most efficient and timely way of getting it done.
That's brilliant. What a great superpower.
It's pretty good. It's done well by me.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I know you're busy. Before you go, would you take just a minute and tell people how they can learn more about Feeding Middlesex County and how they can connect with you?
Certainly. They can go to our website, which is feedingmiddlesexcounty.org, O-R-G. We also, our email is similar, feedingmiddlesexcounty@gmail.com. Our website is very good. In fact, it was another group of students from Rutgers, from the same program, who helped us develop the website. And it's very informative. It talks about hunger and what we're doing to fight it here in Middlesex County, New Jersey.
Fantastic. Well, Jane, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We wish you every success in Feeding Middlesex County.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All righty. Let's do some good.
At CaringCrowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on CaringCrowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
At GoodCrowd.school, 5% of what you pay to learn how to make a difference goes to nonprofits working to eradicate extreme poverty, improve global health, and reverse climate change by 2045. So when you take a course to learn how to change the world, you do change the world. Get started at GoodCrowd.school today. Thanks for tuning in to the Your Mark on the World show, the Social Impact Podcast. Please subscribe via YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify.